The Spaghetti Incident, a tale of social anxiety, pasta, and a lesson in humility. It's a story that has been shared, reshared, and immortalized in forums, green text compilations, and even YouTube readings. At once painfully awkward and strangely heartwarming, the now legendary Spaghetti Incident tells of one young man's battle with social anxiety, his love of spaghetti, and a moment that would live in internet infamy forever. Though born in the chaotic, anonymous world of 4chan's B-board, home to the weird, the wild, and the outright bizarre, the tale has struck a chord with many. Why? Because underneath the memes and mockery, it captures something fundamentally human: the fear of being seen, the longing to connect, and the mortifying ordeal of being known. Act 1. The Setup. The narrator of the story, whose identity remains unknown, introduces himself not as a hero, but the opposite: a socially awkward teenager with poor social skills and a crippling fear of public interaction. He's your classic green text protagonist: introverted, anxious, and hopelessly nerdy. At the heart of his anxiety lies a single enemy: school lunch. For some, it's a welcome break in the day. For him, it's a daily minefield of potential embarrassment. He describes how he usually eats alone, sitting in the corner, trying not to attract attention. But one day, a strange thing happens. An unusually friendly girl from one of his classes invites him to sit with her and her friends during lunch. She's kind, a little shy herself, and she seems to genuinely want to include him. Maybe she's curious. Maybe she pities him. Or maybe she just thinks he seems nice. Regardless of her reasons, she reaches out, and in a moment of uncharacteristic courage, he accepts. What follows is a series of decisions that spiral rapidly out of control.
Act 2. The Spaghetti. Lunch day arrives. The narrator is nervous but determined. He wants to make a good impression. He wants to be normal. He wants, for once, to not mess everything up. He picks what he believes is the least risky meal from the school cafeteria: spaghetti. This, of course, is his first mistake. Armed with a tray of overcooked noodles and watery marinara sauce, he makes his way to the lunch table where the girl and her friends are sitting. They smile and welcome him. For a brief moment, everything seems okay. He sits down. He tries to speak. Small talk, a laugh or two. He's doing it. He's blending in. And then, disaster. His trembling hands, slippery with nerves and cafeteria grease, lose control of the plastic fork. It slips. The spaghetti launches into the air, described in the green text like a slow-motion scene from an action movie, and lands squarely on his lap. Not just a few noodles, the whole plate. He freezes. The table falls silent. And then, the smell hits. Marinara, cheese, a hint of school lunch despair. The spaghetti begins sliding off his pants and onto the floor in slow clumps. He tries to scoop it up, but this only makes it worse. He ends up smearing sauce all over his shirt and hands. In his panic, he attempts to casually flick a piece off, only to launch it directly onto the table, narrowly missing someone's drink. He mutters an apology, but no one says anything. The silence is worse than laughter. In a final act of panic, he grabs what's left of the spaghetti and shoves it into his mouth in a frantic attempt to make it disappear. This too fails. He starts coughing. A piece of noodle hits the table. His eyes water. The girl who invited him watches in stunned horror. Her friends pretend not to notice. One slowly gets up to throw away her trash. He sits there, dripping in tomato sauce, pasta sticking to his pants, praying for a fire alarm. Act 3. Aftermath. Eventually, he escapes. He throws away what's left of his tray, flees to the bathroom, and spends 10 minutes wiping sauce off his clothes with wet paper towels. His face burns with shame. He doesn't return to class that afternoon. He fakes being sick and walks home. He doesn't speak to the girl again. Not because she avoids him, but because he avoids her. She tries once or twice to say hello in the hallway, but he's already learned the lesson that fear has been drilling into him for years. Don't try to fit in. Don't reach out. You'll only mess it up. For years after, he says, he couldn't eat spaghetti without being reminded of that day. Why it endures. On the surface, it's a silly story, a slapstick moment of social failure. But there's something painfully relatable about it. Most of us have had spaghetti moments, not literal ones, but times where we felt awkward, exposed, or rejected. Times where a small mistake felt like a defining moment. Times where we just wanted to disappear. And that's why the story persists. It's become a kind of internet fable, a cautionary tale, a tragic comedy that reminds us how fragile our sense of belonging can be. But there's also a subtle undertone of hope. In later retellings and threads, users often respond not with mockery, but with empathy. Some share their own cringe stories. Others talk about how they've moved past their social anxiety. A few even say they learned to laugh at themselves, and that was the first step towards healing. The real message. It would be easy to reduce the spaghetti incident to just another green text meme. But buried beneath the internet shorthand and adolescent disaster is a valuable lesson. Yes, social anxiety is real. Yes, making a fool of yourself in public sucks. But surviving it and learning to live with the memory is part of growing up. The narrator, by sharing his story, inadvertently did something brave. He turned one of his worst moments into a joke, and in doing so, gave others permission to laugh at their own. He made his shame productive, and that's powerful. If you've ever spilled something on yourself at a party, mispronounced a word during a presentation, or frozen up in conversation, this story's for you. If you've ever felt out of place, unlovable, or strange, this story sees you. And if you ever sit down at a lunch table, spaghetti tray in hand, just know someone out there already made the worst mistake possible. You'll probably be fine. Legacy. The spaghetti incident continues to live on across forums, TikTok skits, dramatic reenactments, and animated retellings. It's been referenced in podcasts, fan fiction, and even mock-serious essays like this one. The original poster may never have imagined their small humiliation would one day be considered internet folklore, but that's the nature of storytelling. What starts as a personal failure can become a shared joke, and shared jokes are how humans survive embarrassment.